Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Jeff Mosher, Adam Caplan. I can feel the excitement in the air, Adam, because we are getting closer and closer to the draft. In fact, we've got this podcast. We got one more this week, and then we'll have next week where we'll do our mock draft podcast. And then I forget what we're going to have the night of, right?
I love it. Actually, you had this great idea. We're going to do what we call our annual mock draft. We'll have Andrew DiCecco, right for us, who's great. Three of us will do a first round mock draft.
Right.
Then we're also going to do an Eagles only mock draft show.
Right.
I love that idea because you're going to hear me put a couple running backs out there who are just perfect fits for what the Eagles are going to do and what we're hearing kind of offense is going to be structured. So, and you know, I know you've got some names you want to talk about. So we're going to do running backs on the show, but I cannot wait to do an Eagles mock draft. We had never thought about doing that before, but when you put it on our schedule, I'm like, this is a great idea. We need to do this.
Right. I'm glad we're getting into running backs tonight because as we have said for quite a bit of the offseason, with the new coaching staff, I feel like there's more digging that we would have to do. The guesswork isn't as easy. For example, I'm sure a couple of years ago, we've talked about Miles Sanders being a perfect fit. Only thing we said was that he didn't have a history of catching the ball at Penn State, which he wound up being a very decent pass catcher, and he needs to improve a little bit, but he's far ahead of where he was from a Penn State running back who didn't catch the ball much. But the bottom line is, with Andy Reid and with Doug Pederson, you knew what kind of specifications they would want out of a running back, a true West Coast running back. We knew with Chip Kelly, he was looking for a little bit more of a bigger kind of, all the guys he brought in were big. DeMarco Murray was big. Ryan Matthews was big. He wanted that power spread running game. But I find myself now, and I don't know where you're at with it, but you look at this blend of coaches here with Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen, right? Certainly in Indianapolis, they have a power running back in Jonathan Taylor, but they also have a pass catching one in Nyheim Hines. And then Steichen work with a power running back in Melvin Gordon, right? And then he also worked with a pass catching one, a really good one in Austin Eckler. So it seems to me like this staff might be more open to a variety of running backs than, say, the West Coast specific running back that maybe Doug or Andy wanted.
I don't think there's any way they'll draft a back who doesn't catch the football. There's just not going to happen.
Really?
I don't see it. They're not going to draft a power back who can't catch the football. Jonathan Taylor, by the way, absolutely had great, very few drops last year. He was tremendous when he got asked to catch the football. You mentioned Hines, you're absolutely right.
Right.
It did work. Jordan Wilkins is also with the Colts, but he's just he's like their fourth back. But you mentioned Steichen with Eckler, who did a phenomenal job with Eckler.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see them drafting a power back who can't catch the football.
True. Most of the guys who are, quote, power backs coming out of college today can catch the ball. We'll talk about some of these guys to a certain degree, though. So it's not
Alabama back who can catch the football. You wouldn't expect it with his size, but he absolutely can.
Yes, absolutely. And there's a couple of kids who can. So I feel like you don't have to have either or nowadays. You can get a back who's about 210 or a little bit more who still has some pretty decent hands out of the backfield. But I just wonder philosophically, because both of these guys in Indianapolis and in LA had a bigger guy and then a pass catching guy, if that's what they want to do here, if they want to take Miles Sanders, but also add maybe a little bit more of a thumper who can also catch to add to the mix.
Yeah, the thumper, I don't see that happening early. Like that, we'll get into that.
Well, I didn't say early. I just mean at some point in the draft, having whether it's
they're going to draft one.
Yeah,
if their board, as long as their board doesn't get obliterated or something crazy happens, they're going to draft it back, and we'll get into where we think that could happen. But it is kind of interesting because you'd said on our last show, when you have a new staff, there's so many things that you just don't know because you and I have been trying to learn. We knew both the offensive and defensive systems. We put that out in our first couple shows after they were hired, what we were hearing. Mm-hmm. But to target body types and certain like rotations, that's hard to know this early. Mm-hmm. But we'll have more. But we did say that what we were hearing is they were not going to have a specific goal line back. They're not going to do that. As terms of the information that I have, that's really not the way that they see it.
Right.
And there's not going to be specific third down backs. Like whoever's in there in third down, that'll be the guy who would catch the football if need be.
Okay. Well, I look forward to talking running backs with you. Want to get to some big announcements as we usually have around this time of the year. It took us a while to lock it down, but we are locked down. We are going to do a pre-draft show the night of the NFL draft, pre-first round show. Yourself, myself, and of course, we can't do a draft show without the main man, Greg Cosell. So it'll be you, me, Greg Cosell at Evil Genius in the brewery, which is in Fishtown, which is a place where we've done a lot of work and we love working there. And big shout out to Mark Colazzo for helping us out with that. Evil Genius Beer Company, 1727 North Front Street. The show will be from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. So pretty much 2 hours, taking you right up until about a half hour before the draft. We'll go through everything, all the intel that you have, I have, Greg has. We'll go through the first round. We'll talk a lot of Eagles, but we'll go through other NFL teams do. We'll talk a little bit about what might happen day 2, day 3. I mean, we got 2 hours to go, just go crazy on the NFL draft. So you'll be able to see us in public, and that's a good thing. So I would recommend calling Evil Genius for more information. I don't know what their capacity level is, but certainly there will be people able to come, and I think we'll have some giveaways.
Yeah, I believe based on the newsletter from Fishtown that Mark Colazzo sent us, that there will be tickets available. We don't know yet. Today's Monday. We'll announce some more on this through our Twitter account at Inside Birds, on our Facebook page, and as well as on our Thursday show. We'll have more information. But again, just to summarize this before we move on, we're going to have a draft preview show, draft night, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. If you're not there, we're streaming it live. So you're going to be able to see it in the normal ways you would see us, as we did our pregame show for the Eagles, Inside the Birds pregame live on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, right?
Yep. Okay. You will see it on all of our Inside the Birds platforms, just like you see our pregame show, our Ask ITB live stream. It's going to be pretty hard to miss if you're an Inside the Birds fan or follower, because we're on so many different platforms. So make sure you're checking out that show. It's going to be amazing, and I can't wait to do it. And again, follow us on our Twitter account at Inside Birds is the main Inside the Birds Twitter account, and we will tweet out soon a link to all the information so that you can go and sign up and be a part of the show, audience of the show. So Evil Genius is a great place. Really look forward to working with them, and I'm excited to talk some draft. And we're very
can't wait. Yeah, we've never done this before, right?
I know Cosell is fired up too.
Yeah. I talked to Greg on Sunday. Yeah, he's excited. As he's told me, and you and Josh Weinfeld, our business manager, he wants to be with us as far as we go with this venture. So he will. As long as
I always knew he wanted to ride our coattails.
Right.
I knew that about Greg.
Yeah, but man, the funny thing is, and Greg has always talked about this, is social media. Because just Greg goes by what he sees, and if it's alumnus of a school, family, whoever it is, he's always got someone yelling at him on Twitter.
Yeah.
But our fans, I mean, they love him. There's this love affair with this guy. It's amazing the love that they have. So we have to keep him in the family. So he will be with us for a while.
Right. And by the way, Tuesday morning, the next Inside the Draft with Greg Cosell will drop on our platforms. And it's probably going to be one of the most important ones, because we're going to be talking about linebackers. And we're going to focus real heavily, as we should, being Eagles reporters mostly, on the second and third round linebackers and day 3 linebackers, not the first. We'll talk a little bit about Micah Parsons, obviously, and Zaven Collins and everything like that. But with the Eagles,
I mean, if we're doing that show, will cover the top linebackers, but because this is mainly an Eagle show,
right?
We'll crowbar a lot of guys who would fit, and we know the scheme. And Greg is great with the Viking scheme, so he'll be able to break that down. And plus, no matter what team that you follow, and we know not all people are listening to Eagle fans. We've learned that quite a bit. We'll talk about Washington, the Giants, Dallas, obviously, who's pretty good linebacker anyway, and any sleepers Greg has, and any intel you and I have.
Awesome. Look forward to that. All right, let's get into the crux of our show. We'll start off talking about running backs. We already kind of teased it a little bit. So I think it's important that we repeat what we said after the Eagles signed Jordan Howard, and that it's don't get married to the idea that Jordan Howard is definitely going to be the number 2 back. I mean, he signed a 1-year deal. He wasn't wanted by very many teams. I don't know if you heard his Zoom conference, Adam, but he told reporters that he thought he was done. He didn't think anyone was going to have interest in him, and that the market was so dry. Yes. So when the player says that about himself, I mean, as Greg likes to say, you know, the tape tells you what you are, the league tells you what you are. So he comes back to the Eagles where he has had some success, but he is a person, Adam. I would think you could say is replaceable, fungible. If they draft a kid, you would want to see that kid get more time. But in case they don't, or they do and the kid doesn't work out, you've got the steady, reliable veteran there.
Agree. He's an insurance policy. The Eagles, as I understand it, they loosely targeted him at the start of free agency. They knew he was going to be there, and they monitored the market. They had a certain money set aside for the position, and they weren't going to spend anything really. They were looking for a veteran minimum deal, and that's what they got with Jordan Howard. And right now he's the de facto number 2, but that's just a name only. They're not married to him, as Jeff said, as a number 2. And as we told you all last year, as much as we like Boston Scott, he is absolutely not a number 2 running back. He proved that. He's been a good story of development, a good find for by the Eagles, but over the years. But the fact of the matter is, he's just not a number 2. Sometimes you just don't know about a guy until he's put in a specific role, and then they played himself out of that role. And look, they, as you know, Jeff, you and I talked about it after the draft last year. We went over all the Eagles targets in round 2. Of course, we didn't know about Hurts, but we talked about Dobbins. We told you that Chin was going to be the guy. We told you that, and I think our first show after we did the draft,
right.
We had heard it was going to be Chin if it wasn't Hurts.
Mm-hmm.
And Dobbins was the other guy, and there was one other player, name escapes me right now, they were looking at, but
right.
So doesn't that tell you? And I was kind of stunned to find that out after the draft. I'm like, really? You would draft a running back in the second round in 2 different drafts? But that's what we had heard. What are your feelings on that about a 2-back system?
I'm not, it depends on your coaching staff and its philosophy. I'm not against it. You're talking about second round picks, right? Miles Sanders was a second round pick, and had they taken J.K. Dobbins, it's not like you feel like it's as wasted as if you used a first round pick on a running back who you expect to tote the ball, whether it's carrying or touching at least 20 to 25 times a game. Even Andy Reid, here's the thing about Andy. Like, I remember when guys would get hurt, he would have really good running back. Like Carell Buckhalter used to come in, and what was Carell, a third round pick? It's not like he was a slouch. No, I thought he was higher than that. You look at while I talk about it, but nonetheless, he was a good player who just kept ripping up his knees, unfortunately. But I remember Brian Westbrook would be sidelined frequently, and Carell Buckhalter would step in, and they would have to
fourth round.
Was it fourth?
Yeah, I said fifth. You said third.
We split the difference. He was a 4th round pick. So, but the point is, they already had guys, and they weren't afraid to keep drafting guys. Now, 2 second rounders. Look, I think I would have appreciated it, Adam, for this. I wouldn't have ripped it for this reason alone. I can't be a hypocrite. I always say you should take the highest ranked player on your board, unless, of course, you've got a great quarterback, and then you're in the first round. You're not going to take another great quarterback unless your other one is older. But I do think at almost every position, if the guy is that good, you take him. And obviously, Miles Sanders struggled last year to stay healthy, which he also did the year before. And there are times where he was hurt last year that Boston Scott had to be the number 2. And yeah, he had some nice flashes. He won the game for you against the Giants. But altogether, when Boston Scott's your number 2, your offense is probably not going to be very good. And the Eagles were not very good offensively. J.K. Dobbins did a wonderful job stepping in when Mark Ingram, was hurt. And at the end of the year, I think Ingram wound up being inactive because they had Dobbins and they had Gus.
Yeah.
So
and they cut him. He's now in Houston, I think. But
so I would have appreciated the pick, because to me that would have meant you went by your board and you took a player who's really good, who could have helped you, and I'm sure he would have, maybe even in the return game. I have no idea, but they obviously went with Jalen Hurts, and I would have respected a Jeremy Chin one. Now, someone might have said that was more of a need because they haven't had safety. I would have respected that anyway, because that's who they had ranked highly on their board.
You know what's amazing about Chin? Analytically, he hit every number, like every number.
Sure.
And that's the thing. Like, was it an analytics pick, or would it have been an analytics pick or a tape pick? His upside was tremendous. He did way better than I think people expected, because his postseason numbers, whether it was the pro day or whatever it was, I can't remember now. The numbers were so incredible. I know some teams that went back to look to see if he was that explosive on tape. That's how blown away people were.
Yep.
And this is one of those rare times where he sort of performed to or outperformed his workout numbers.
Right.
So yeah, look, that would have been the right pick. So the bottom line is getting back to Dobbins or potentially drafting a running back in the second or third round. To me, it's absolutely in play unless something happens in the first round where let's say they don't get that corner in the first round, or, every player they want, even Rashawn Slater at 12, if they stay there, he'd be sort of the bottom of that group.
Mm-hmm.
If he's gone and their whole board is destroyed, that changes what could happen in the second or third round because they have to get corners.
Absolutely. So I would think that if they're going to get a running back, if in their mind, if you're going to ask them when they get the running back, it's either round 3 or early day 3, like round 4, round 5, something like that.
I would say anywhere. I would say anywhere from rounds 2 to 4. I really do. I'm not. If let's say they get the corner in round 1, right?
Yeah.
I'm not eliminating at 37 a running back. I'm just not. Based on the fact that we knew they liked Dobbins last year. Well,
here's the thing. I don't know where I'm at with this, with how he's.
But you said,
you know what I'm saying? Like, I could understand what you're saying, that they come to the second round, 37th overall.
What's the best guy on the board?
The highest guy. Let's say, ATN probably won't be there, but let's say Najee Harris is, and he might have a high rank. Would they take him? I can see how he's talking himself into a safety. Well, not a safety. What am I crazy? Talking himself into an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman.
That in there.
I had to do it.
I got that one. Everyone else did too, who's been listening forever on our show.
Yeah. Either that or a trade down to pick up more. I don't know. I guess I'm like Missouri. You got to show me you're really going to do it.
Look, it's fair. I'm going to be interested to see what their board, what we hear about their board, kind of what. Not that we're going to know what's on their board, but the potential of certain guys being there and what they would do.
Right.
Because quite frankly, after Harrison and ATN, Javonte Williams he's in that mix in the second or mid-second. But we'll get to the guys that I like who would be a little bit later, who would just be unbelievable fits. But running backs is a fascinating situation because this team has always been pretty much, they want guys who catch the football.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's another question.
Okay.
We had said last year, despite every report out there was going to be, we said it, we must have said it in June of last year. There absolutely would be no committee. None.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw every report saying we were wrong. There's going to be a committee. I'm like, okay. When's the last time a head coach said he wanted a committee? No, what happens is, folks, they have a committee when they're given running backs who would form a committee because none of them are good enough.
Yeah, there are a few. I would say there are a few coaches, the old school types, the John Foxes that, or even Rivera when he was in Carolina, seemed to prefer the committee. But
you have to tell me who the backs are, and I could tell you if that's. I don't know who you're talking about.
Well, he had D'Angelo Williams. He had when they went to the Super Bowl, he had a couple of pretty good running backs.
Well, Jonathan Stewart. What happened was they overpaid 2 backs.
Mm-hmm.
And plus Stewart had a major injury history.
Right.
So they had and then Williams had his injury history. So they were really the only team that I could remember that's ever paid 2 backs like top dollar, which is absurd.
Well, don't forget Chip Kelly. He paid Ryan Matthews and DeMarco Murray some pretty good money, if you remember.
Well, remember, it was going to be Frank Gore, who had the shortest tenure in Eagles history.
Yes, he did.
And Murray was not. The funny thing about Murray was they didn't even scout him. Like they really never did any. They did. They have to scout him for free agency, but they just dismissed it.
Right.
And then the agent, they never even called the agents. The agents called them and said they saw the story out there that Gore's not going to go there.
I don't know. For a coach that's so analytically driven, he clearly didn't do the research on running backs who touch the ball like 400 times in a season and what their stats are like the next year. Because if you remember, DeMarco Murray ran to the ground by the Cowboys that final year. The touches were ridiculous. And remember, he broke his hand, I think, in the playoffs and still played through it anyway. And then the Eagles signed him, and then he just clearly didn't have the same explosion, same step that he had.
The system, I thought it was going to fit him pretty well, downhill system, but it didn't work. God, from day one, it was awful.
They kept running him outside every single time. Outside. That's a big guy.
It just didn't work. It was a disaster. So many things in that season were a disaster.
It was a disaster. That is
2015. True. But I'm always fascinated when there's a new staff or whatever team, and we know the system. The philosophy is going to be more West Coast in terms of play calling, but running back usage and rotations and so forth. This is the fascinating part about how Sirianni is going to call a game. He's going to call the plays.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very interested to see what he does here at the running back position. And then as we turn our attention to the draft,
mm-hmm.
How early do the Eagles feel like they need to draft a running back? If the board works out for them, the guys that they like are there. They're only going to draft one if they do it all.
Right.
Is that guy going to be a system fit? A guy can catch the football, body type? We'll see. Remember, the general manager has personnel control, so and I'm sure we had people ask us this question in our Tuesday night show. Roseman generally takes a lot of input from the coaches. It doesn't mean he's going to do what they ask, mm-hmm. but he's going to listen. Mm-hmm. And he does do that. Talking to the coaches over the years, he definitely listens. He'll actually go to them and ask them, what do they think? He'll ask them privately, hey, have you seen this guy? If not, could you watch this guy? Things like that. He does that. He's not bashful. There's nothing wrong with that, but you have to be careful of how much input you have. And I could tell you this, talking to GMs, mm-hmm. and over the years, not every coach is a good evaluator.
I think that's fair. That's definitely a fair point. Not every coach is a great talent.
Be careful where you get intel from.
Yeah, exactly. I want to get into the philosophical concept of the running game with you real quick and try to make sense of a perception. Yeah. But I don't know if I ever told you this. Did you know I was in a spelling bee in fifth or fourth grade? Yeah, I won my school spelling bee, so I got to compete in a county-wide spelling bee on behalf of my school. I won my school spelling bee. In the county one, I finished in 8th place, and I'll never forget the word.
How do you remember this? How do you remember this?
Because I probably have no other better feats than.
But you beat your buddy. Yeah, but you beat your buddy one-on-one.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of karate or little league championships, so I got to go with spelling bee. I got to go really nerd out and tell you what it's like. But hilarious. I remember that I spelled the last word that eliminated me in the county one was manageable. And I forgot I dropped the E, and you're not supposed to drop it.
I was going to say EABLE. Yeah.
Yep. So the minute I spelled it, I knew I screwed up. And so, hey, look, there's a couple hundred people that I finished in 8th place. So I'm not, not a bad job, but
wow.
I tell you that because Adam, we love winning. I wanted to win. I didn't get a chance to win, but I did win my school's spelling bee to advance to the county one. And I always cherish those moments. Now I may have retired off the field from spelling bees a long, long time ago, but I am winning now because I use Deal Dash just like you. It's the online shopping platform that's actually fun, and it is fun. You and I can attest to that. It's the longest running penny auction website and app around. And if you think Deal Dash is too good to be true, you're damn right it is. I mean, I've seen a car sell for $900, a brand new TV for less than $2. And I think I told everybody the last episode, I tried to get a pair of wireless speakers, outdoor speakers that were valued at $150. I tried to get them, but I just I fell up short, but they went for like $21. So they were pretty darn good wireless speakers.
Oh yeah, they're legit too. It's not like they're selling like stuff that's not very good. No, they sell quality stuff.
Really good stuff.
I won an iPad in the worst way, and I'm going to win one at some point soon.
All right, you got to let us know when you do.
Yeah. No, I'm going to try. I'm going to try. In fact, had I known about Deal Dash, I would not have spent full price on my wife's all of her Apple stuff. Goodness gracious, I wish I would have known about Deal Dash earlier. But hey, it's all there, and the app is terrific. Very easy to use.
All right, so don't be a loser. Stop paying full retail price like Adam does for Apple products for things that you can just get on Deal Dash. Go to dealdash.com or download the app. That's the way I use it. It's the way Adam uses it too. When you register, enter the promo code ITB for a special offer. You'll get some bonus free bids. That's using the promo code ITB for a special offer for some bonus free bids. All right, back to what I wanted to address with you with this running game before we start to get into some running backs is I'm still a little bit and I think most people are too, trying to connect the dots between what Jeffrey Lurie really liked about Nick Sirianni and knowing that Nick Sirianni came from an offense that ran the ball more than most teams in the NFL. And we already know how Jeffrey Lurie feels about running. He doesn't even like it when they win games, right? and a team that didn't really use analytics as much as the Eagles do. I just keep wondering what it was. What was the allure? And is Nick Sirianni allowed to be the kind of coach he was in Indianapolis where they did run more, or does he have to come here and just,
great question,
guns ablaze and throwing the ball to satisfy the owner?
Couple things here. Look, Arthur Smith would have been the head coach, I think, if certain things would have worked out. They didn't offer him the job, just to be clear, if you're quoting me here. I just think that had the timing worked out, Arthur Smith probably would have been the guy.
Yeah, timing was the issue there. He interviewed with them, right? But then the Eagles decided they were going to still,
they want to interview more people. Look, the bottom line is if they wanted him to be the guy, Arthur Smith, the guy, they could have just offered him the job.
Right.
But they could have made it work, and he couldn't wait, and he had one offer, the Falcons, and he took it. They knew about Sirianni. They did their homework on him. Really talented young coach. The thing I'm learning about this business is, and I learned this about Andy Reid in '99 when I literally never heard of the guy. It doesn't matter if the guy's never interviewed for a head coaching job or it's a guy that you're not familiar with. It's all about the information you have in the intel. Because I think sometimes we get too enamored with the next hot coach in terms of interest.
Sure.
Well, Hugh Jackson was pursued by the Browns and Giants. You know how that worked out. Ben McAdoo was pursued by the Eagles and Giants. He would have been the Eagles head coach. And the Giants not beat him to it. So be careful of what you wish for.
Yeah. Adam Gase was the hot candidate twice.
Oh, great example. Oh, you know what? He's a really good quarterbacks coach. He's just not a head coach. And I don't know what the allure was. As soon as he got fired, they were on the phone with him.
Right.
Don't get it.
It's hard because sometimes the hot candidate really is that good. I mean, Kyle Shanahan's been a really good coach in San Francisco. Sure. I know they had a lot of injuries they had to deal with last year, but Sean McVay has been the real deal out in LA, and they were hot on his tails when he became available. I would say Matt LaFleur's done a pretty good job in Green Bay, and you knew he was going to get a head coaching job. So it's an amazing, it's almost like the draft where you think guys are automatic and they're not. And then you think some guys, and then they wind up being great. But I guess we can measure Nick Sirianni versus guys like Arthur Smith and anybody else who, got a job. Who else got the Eagles interviewed 1,000 people, but did anybody else get head coaching jobs? Oh, Saleh.
Yeah. Right? Robert Saleh. Yeah.
I actually think the whole Jets Eagles future, and they're going to play each other, right? Because of that 17th game.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot. Yeah,
they're
so weird.
That'll be fun to watch because they're both kind of rebuilding. They both have a ton of picks over the next 2 years. One team is choosing to go with a newer quarterback. The other is going to try to ride it out with the guy they picked in the second round last year and see if that works. And the former personnel guy. So I look forward to seeing how that works.
I'm a big Saleh fan. He's going to be a part of what we're going to be talking about. You don't know this, but he's going to be part of what we're going to be talking about in a couple minutes here when we have the second part of 2 on the Athletic article that I want to talk about something that happened in 2017. The whole timeline is just unbelievable after the 16 season. So, right. We'll get into that, but look, getting back to Sirianni and the run game and so forth. It is going to be fascinating to see the analytics part because we know. I remember Joe Banner telling me this during my time at ESPN. He said, "You got to understand, the numbers are irrefutable. If you come out throwing heavy in the first half versus run, you win more than you lose, way more. You throw to score in the first half, you run and win the second half." Now, I was not a believer in it until I saw the numbers. I couldn't knock it because it's true. This is what Bill Walsh believed in.
Yes,
this is what Bill Belichick believes in.
That's right. Andy Reid certainly believes in that.
I'm sorry?
Andy Reid certainly believes in that.
And my friend Warren Sharp, who was in the Athletic article, Warren's tremendous. He believes in it. He's a consultant for the Eagles.
Yep.
Follow him on Twitter. He's phenomenal. He's so great because he doesn't even hide it. He rips teams that want to run the football all the time. It's because here's the thing. He's not wrong. You can't knock the numbers. See, in this town, growing up here, it's about Buddy Ryan. God never won a playoff game, but it's about Buddy Ryan, great defense, run the football. It doesn't work.
Right. Now, interestingly enough, somebody of some kind of credibility on Twitter a week or 2 ago was trying to make a point about the teams with the best records last year, like the top 5 best records. 4 of them were were ranked very high in running the ball. And I thought it was I always think that that's an unfair or
I have to see what the first half numbers is.
I got to say it lacks context. Like, exactly. I want to
I have to know. It doesn't matter until you look at the first half.
Exactly.
That's all that matters. That's how you evaluate a run team, whether they're running or passing.
Yeah.
As you're alluding to, sure, you can make it 52-48 by the end of the fourth quarter.
Exactly.
Tell me what it looked like in the first half, because if they got the lead, they're running the football, folks.
Exactly. You're just handing the ball off in the fourth quarter. The Eagles did that a lot in 2017. You know, they passed.
Oh, we had the numbers last year. Yeah, I did the research. I mean, they were right up there in first half play calls in pass.
I think they were. You said that they were around 66 or 67 in the first half in 2017.
It wasn't that high. It might have been 63, but
no, that's right, 63. That's
I don't have it in front of me, but it was irrefutable. But again, the run game truthers, they'll look at the end of the game, like, oh, see, I told you there was 53-47. I'm like, and I'll hold up, dude. No, you're wrong. Look at the first half play call. They got the lead, and then they ran it, and then made you happy.
Yes, exactly. No, I'm with you on that. All right, we're going to get into some prospects here in the draft that the Eagles should be having their eyes on. First, I want to tell everyone, download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code ITB when you sign up to turn $5 into $130 if the contender of your choice wins. That's the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Using promo code ITB when you sign up, turn $5 into $130 if the contender of your choice wins. That's a pretty good deal. All right, let's get into some possible targets, some running backs. Now, do you want to start off with guys that are going to, the first rounders, second rounders, third rounders?
No, I'm just going to give you the guys who are system fits. The Eagles obviously are not drafting a running back.
Well, when you say a system fit, it's got to be a guy who catches the ball or a guy
who catches the ball. Here's what I think. I understand that Sirianni will have some say in terms of input. All head coaches do it, specifically play callers or head coaches, the offensive side of the football. But in the end, they're going to get an Eagle back who fits their profile. That's kind of the way I see it. I got two guys.
Okay.
And they're going to go probably in the third round, outside chance at the second. Now, they're probably too early at 37, but third round makes more sense to me. The two guys who fit incredibly well for this kind of offense are Michael Carter from North Carolina, 5'7", 7/10 of an inch. He was a participant in the Senior Bowl, four-year player, 5'7" and 7/10 of an inch, 201. Now, here's the interesting part about it and why the tape matters more than the 40 time. His 4.50 40 wasn't good. But a short shuttle, his 22-yard short shuttle, is better than Dynami Brown, who's explosive.
He's a wide receiver, right? Dynami
Right,
Brown.
exactly, right, exactly. That's why I mention it. His tape is so good. He is so explosive. He has 2 seasons of major production his last 2 seasons. And he's a terrific pass catcher. He absolutely would be a great back. You don't have to be 5'10" and 220 to be a great second back. He is so much more explosive. He's twice or 3 times explosive than anyone else the Eagles have on their roster. I'm telling you, other than Miles Sanders, more than the kid who was
Boston Scott, or definitely more than Elijah Holyfield. More than Michael Warren. Did Michael Warren come back? Did they sign him to a?
No, he went to. As a matter of fact, I think he went to another team, and I believe he might have been cut.
Oh, okay. Washington. Yeah. Very explosive, as he was described. And remember, there's 2 North Carolina kids who are pretty good. Michael Carter's probably the better one. The other one is Javonte. Why can't I remember?
Javonte Williams, who's actually going to go higher because he's bigger. But Carter's more explosive. Oh,
definitely more. He's also can help you in the return games. He's just that explosive that he can be a good kickoff returner or punt returner. The concern for him, but it wouldn't be a concern if he was splitting time with Miles Sanders, is just workload. I was told that you just don't know because he's 5'8", 200. If he's the guy who's going to carry press the ball as much. But one thing about Michael Carter, I'm going to add that league guy told me was that and you see this a lot with these lighter guys, is that he has a tendency to want to bounce it to the outside a whole lot. He doesn't. The term is press the line of scrimmage, is where you kind of tuck that ball and you use your vision to find the holes, which I think Miles has done a really good job of that. Miles does not, to me, try to bounce everything outside. I thought last year one of his improvements was as a between tackles runner who can then get to the second level. So good on Miles Sanders for that, because Miles is not a very big guy either. But that is one thing with Michael Carter.
I mean, he's not tall. He's under 5'8", but he's not like when Westbrook came in. I think B. West said he was 180 when he came in, maybe.
Yeah, I think he said that.
So this kid is 201.
Right.
So he's not super small, but his numbers were so good, and the tape shows how explosive he is outside formation. But as you're saying, that's the problem. You got to run inside, and he's not great in between the tackles. So,
right.
But in terms of a system fit, he's a great backup to Sanders. But you make a good point. If Sanders got hurt and he's the guy, you need another back to go along with him, because he's got to show that he could handle 10 to 12 carries and get that other back involved. But he fits the system. It's definitely questionable. I think he's more of a third-round pick. It's more of a question, if Sanders got hurt, could he be the guy?
The guy I spoke to about Carter had a mid-3 on him. So I think that
I think he's a third rounder. Yeah.
Sure. Who else you want to? I've got a few guys, but who else you want to get?
Now, this guy is my favorite back for the draft, and it's not even close. He would be an unbelievable fit, but he only has 1 year production. Kenneth Gainwell from Memphis.
That's your favorite guy?
I love this kid. I love it. Running back. I'm talking about running back.
Yeah, I know.
He's awesome. He played 2 years, but really his first year did nothing. He barely played. His 1 year, okay? The numbers match the tape. And it's rare that numbers like this would match the tape, but from what I'm told by 3 people, just off the hook, incredible. 231 carries in 2019, 1459 on the ground, 13 touchdowns. And get this, 51 receptions for 610, 12 yards per catch and 3 touchdowns. And the tape is unbelievably dynamic. I like Greg Cosell was telling me that he thinks he is explosive, but not as big physically as the New Orleans back.
Oh, as Michael Carter.
No.
Oh, no, as the which back?
The Saints back. You know what I'm talking about.
Alvin Kamara?
Kamara.
Yeah, Kamara. Yeah.
But this kid, his tape is so unbelievably phenomenal. And I remember he opted out last season.
Right.
It's incredible, but you have to take a leap of faith. Now, he's a little bit bigger physically. 5'8" and 0.3 of an inch, 201. It's funny, Carter's 201, but he's linear. He runs longer, I was told. But his 29 tape is incredible. And don't forget, Antonio Gibson was also there.
I was just about to say, what is it with Memphis churning out all these?
I know.
There's another kid from Memphis who's in the league who's pretty good, right? I can't think, like a running back or receiver. I'm not thinking of the Bears. It's not the Bears receiver.
No, Miller's been disappointing. Yeah.
No, there's somebody else from Memphis who's like off the charts athleticism that I'm just not thinking of. It's probably a wide receiver or a running back.
Yeah.
Either way, they've been churning them out lately.
But Gainwell, his tape is so good. He's going to, I don't know that he goes in the second. I think he's going to be in the third, because you have to take the leap of faith with him. Now, his 40 was, okay, here's the thing. I was told his tape, he looks like he runs around a 4.32. His 40 time, his best was 4.40. Who cares? His 10-yard was actually better than Michael Carter's. Carter's 20 yards shuttle was better, but look, the tape is just incredible.
Right.
This would be a phenomenal third-round pick if he's there with the Eagles. The Eagles have not gotten that other back. Now, he projects more to be a guy who could start if Sanders can't play.
Sure.
As it was explained to me, he is going to be, with the right coaching, he's a chance to be incredible. Like, that's how great his tape is. Good kid too. By the way, he's a 3-year. Oh, he was another thing. 2 things. One at quarterback in high school for 3 years.
Okay.
You could run him out of different formations. He was used the tape shows he was used in every way, shape, or form as a split out receiver. That's why he had 51 catches. That's why I'm like, oh my God, it was like a pinball machine, this guy.
By the way, Tony Pollard, the Cowboys running back,
yes,
was who I was thinking of.
Yes, and he's explosive. And the funny thing is,
yeah.
Here's the funny thing. So I was talking to one of the coaches there from Memphis last year. I'm like, why the hell did this kid get? Why was no one talking about him? He's like, we told teams about him, but they were fixated on Gibson because of his positional versatility, and he's really incredible. For a big guy, he could do a lot of things. Pollard was great last year filling in for is the changeup. Yeah, he did a great job.
Sure. He's a good player. And by the way, just from an athletic standpoint, how this school seems to be able to churn out really good athletes.
Isn't that weird?
Jannard Avery, I mean, for an edge rusher, has a lot of speed off the edges. He's a speed rusher type of guy. So I mean, he's in the NFL. I mean, he's a 4th round pick. Memphis is like that little powerhouse now. They're really,
it's like the Temple of the South, Temple for years. Remember Leslie Shepard, who was a receiver for Washington?
Yeah.
He took shots at the program. I don't know. I can't just go back several years. He just was not exactly complimentary.
Right.
He was a decent player in the NFL for Washington.
Right.
But the Temple program for years, people would beat it up. Wasn't very good. And then, of course, Matt Rule goes in there and turns the thing around. And they churn out some players, Temple. Anyway.
They have. No, and plus, the head coach there, right? He's done a nice job. Ryan, what's his name?
Rod Carey?
No. The Memphis coach, right?
Oh, Ryan Silverfield does a good job. Yeah, he's done a good job. He actually coached the NFL. But anyway, you're right. Carter and Gainwell. Carter, North Carolina, Gainwell from Memphis. Keep an eye on those guys. 3rd round would make more sense for me.
Awesome. What do you think of Trey Sermon?
Don't know a lot about him. I know who he is. I know his game, but I just don't know a whole lot about him.
He only caught the ball 12 times at Ohio State, but that's not an offense, much like Penn State's, where running backs catch the ball a whole lot, maybe a few dump offs here and there. I got some pretty good intel on Trey and just him being a pretty good running back, kind of a 3rd to 4th round guy, and he's got great feet. That's the one thing about Sermon. Great feet. You ever watch Nick Chubb? You see how awesome he is at just stopping and starting on a dime.
He's built too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Sermon's 215, 6 foot 215, great balance, runs with great pad level. If you're just looking for a guy, you can put the ball in his hands and he's going to give you yards. Trey Sermon's a pretty good player. Now, obviously, if he can't catch the ball, then he probably wouldn't be a good fit. But I was told that he's actually better at catching the ball than the stats would show. It's just not an offense that's predicated on it. So I don't remember his pro day. I don't know if he
didn't run well, but I'll tell you what, he's a guy in the 4th round. If they've not gotten that guy, that would make sense to me with sure because he's got really good size.
That's what I was late 3rd, early 4 is kind of the target area for him. I don't know if you watched. I did. Did you watch the Ohio State Northwestern Big Ten championship game?
I did not.
Well, Ohio State really struggled to throw the ball. Northwestern had a really good defense. And it was a close game. And then late in the 3rd, I guess Ryan Day, former Eagles quarterback coach under Chip Kelly, said, all right, I'm just not going to pass the ball. And he literally gave the ball to Trey Sermon. He must have given the ball to Trey Sermon like 17 times out of 21 plays. And Sermon ran all over.
He'd be fired here.
I know, right? Exactly. They won. They won fairly. They were able to win all right. And Sermon like 200 something yards. And Jeffrey Lurie probably was disgusted by it, but it was unbelievable. Like he broke Northwestern's spirit. Now I know Ohio State has a good offensive line, but I'm telling you, like he was just running into guys and running over guys. And he's not even known for breaking contact that well. But in this game, he was like trying to be a first round.
He's Trey Sermon's got good size, but
it's
going to be fascinating to see what they do at running back. I'm looking forward to it.
I agree. So let's say they draft. Let's say they go with this kid, Michael Carter, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say they get him in the 3rd round.
I think Gainwell will be much better because he could be a starting running back if Sanders got hurt. Where Carter, to me, there's some questions. He's got more bulk than Boston Scott, but I don't know if he could be that guy who can get 12 to 15 carries if need be. That's the question for him. Why? From a system fitting, yes, for 100%, but I don't know if he can handle that many carries.
Okay, so what I'm trying to figure out though is does the whoever they draft a kid, does he edge Boston Scott out for a job or Jordan Howard out for a job?
I think you work. I think what happens is you go through it. Mm-hmm. Like Chuba Hubbard, I like from Oklahoma State.
I got some intel on Chuba. Good player,
yeah. Him or Stevenson from Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. I've heard good things about whoever it is. Whoever it is has got to be able to handle a lot of work. Carter to me is a great system fit, but I do question it. Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that? Because I think ultimately Miles Sanders is still going to handle.
No, but again, I'm talking about if Sanders got hurt. If Sanders got hurt,
right?
Remember we said last year the Eagles would have to have an answer.
That's
They
a good
didn't
point.
have an answer.
You wouldn't trust Michael Carter to take. You would have to be way more committee based then.
Yeah, I need right, and I need I haven't said anyone. I need to find out. It's a good question. I need to wrap this up on him. Could he be a guy could handle 12 plus carries if the starting running back, wherever he goes, gets hurt? Because whoever they draft, if they draft anyone from rounds 2 to 4, it probably won't be in the second round of 37. You want to say never, but it's unlikely,
right?
Just based on what their needs are. But as you said, and I agree. Look, if their board says it's this guy, he's the highest rated guy. That's what you do. But in general, I see the guy coming in the 3rd or 4th round, 3rd most likely. It's just a matter of can this guy handle a certain amount of carries? If not, it's going to be less likely.
Right. So if they're there at 37 and Najee Harris is still on the board, it's
a tough call, man.
That's
that look. If the corners are if another outside corner is not there, if pass rusher's not there, if D tackle's not there,
I got no problem with it, man. I got no problem with taking him. You know, you can always trade Miles after this year if he plays. I mean, there's nothing wrong with 2 weapons who are going to help you.
But listen, I'm going to use the Bill Polian line. Is he an upgrade over Sanders?
It's a good question.
If he is, you're taking him.
I almost see him as a little bit like Sam. I mean, he can be a mismatch for linebackers and
he's bigger physically.
The passing. He is bigger physically, but he can run, he can catch.
He can catch really well for a guy's size.
Yeah, he just doesn't have the breakaway speed that Miles Sanders has. It's a really nice 1-2 combo. Listen, you know, I know most people would say you just don't take a running back when you have Miles Sanders in the 2nd round, but I'm not like most. I'm just getting for great players, you know. Get me great players and let the coaches figure it out. All right. Any other running backs you want to go through there?
Nah. This is, remember, we're going to have that 2-hour show with Greg Cosell, draft night, because we're going to go over a lot of players. We're probably going to hit running backs, and we may do, because we're going to have odds and ends before the draft. There's some linebackers I want to get into later on, some tight ends I want to hit on. I just want to list about 3 or 4 guys that the Eagles need to add another tight end, obviously, because they're going to wind up trading Ertz. One way or the other, they're going to move him.
I agree.
And they're just going to have to, whatever the best they can get, just take it and just be done with it. It could be on the 3rd day. Who knows? But nevertheless, they're going to need to move on. They need to add another tight end.
All right. We'll get into that. I can't wait for that draft show. It's going to be a blast. All right. As we always do, you got to check out our friends, as we always tell you, I should say. You got to check out our friends at phlsportsnation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all of our professional Philadelphia sports teams. They got great podcasts, too. They have great written content on their website, or digital content, I should say. So check them out, phlsportsnation.com. You can even find them on Twitter at phlsportsnation. And we'll pause another minute for a word from our other great sponsors, including our very good friends at Sky Motor Cars. All right, if you stop into Sky Motor Cars, make sure you tell them that Adam and Jeff sent you. You'll get a great deal.
And congratulate them on their big award that they won, which is phenomenal. They won a major award for customer service, so good for them.
Probably better than my spelling bee award, so good for them.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. Congrats to Brett Scholder, the owner, and his sales team. They do a phenomenal job. We had my wife and I had a couple transactions for Brett and his company. Could have been like the easiest thing I've ever done with car buying. Like I've always said about Sky Motor Cars, why can't every car deal be that easy? I didn't know him, by the way. I didn't know the guy before we did those deals, and I didn't know that Sheldon Brown. Man, he's done so many deals with the Eagles over the years, Eagles players.
Right.
So Sheldon Brown and gosh, obviously Carson Wentz. So many players over the years that John Hightower got a car through them most recently. So they do a great job.
Awesome. I'm guessing if John Hightower got a car, it's a fast one.
It is. Yep. I think he might have got a Charger, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, there you go. All right. Not an LA Charger.
I don't know how I know that, but I think I actually saw his Instagram.
Awesome. All right. Let's talk a little bit more, continue our conversation as we wrap this up on the front office, the ownership, things that have come out in the Athletic article, the Inquirer article, our reporting. I want to go back to Jeffrey Lurie for a minute because he's been regarded as a person, as an owner who has been patient. He's a patient owner. You'll often hear because he was patient with Andy Reid, 14 years, patient with Howie Roseman, who's going on 10 plus years as a GM, despite having, 4 different head coaches, which is not what a lot of GMs get. But I think you can also look, though, while he's been patient with those 2 individuals, he's also made very quick moves with guys who are not those 2 guys. I mean, Chip Kelly, one had that bad year, and it was not just record related. We know that, but we gave you he hurriedly
wasn't
everything.
No, it definitely wasn't record related. It was everything else.
But he hurriedly kind of gave him everything and then hurriedly took it away.
Very fair.
If you look at the number of position coaches that the Eagles have had over the last 3 or 4 years, whether it's defensive line, wide receiver, cornerbacks, I'm trying to think where else. Now linebackers coaches. I mean, they have gone through a lot of position coaches, probably more so than most teams.
Receivers and D-line
coach especially, and D-line especially. Right. So that's a little bit odd. I don't know if the patience per se extends to the assistant coaches, and we've talked about that a lot. I mean, when you look at Jeffrey, do you feel like there's a disparity between the patience he showed with both Andy and Howie and then almost seemingly everybody else?
Well, I don't think he had anything to do with the D-line. I just think I know the players had issues with some of those coaches over the years, and there's some clashes, and it just wasn't working out. But the receiver coach thing, I mean, Mike Groh got promoted because he was phenomenal. It didn't work out, unfortunately, as an OC.
But isn't that a good example that his offense infuriated Jeffrey Lurie, I guess?
Yeah.
But, I mean, his offense finished 12th overall, but it was 3rd as I bring up all the time, it was 3rd in red zone and 4th in 3rd down. I mean, situationally, they were very good that year.
Well, 19, here's the way the Eagles thought about it. 19, they think that once regression started, is what I was told by two people. They thought that, 18 obviously had a back fracture. He was actually pretty solid that year. Greg Cosell was telling me that when I asked him after 18, I'm like, man, once his numbers weren't good, he goes, I'm telling you, the tape was actually pretty solid. I was like, all right. When he says that, that's all I need to know.
I thought that year was a pretty solid year. His completion percentage went way up, and I think his passer rating was the highest of his career as well.
Way accurate, almost 10% higher, which is crazy. That doesn't happen. But the average per pass attempt was higher than you would expect, but everything was middle. Now, whether it was the issues at receiver, relying on Ertz too much, whatever the case is, there weren't a lot of downfield throws, but I'll say this, he was more accurate than we probably would have expected, but they thought the regression in terms of mechanics started in 19. And this is where you and I kept saying, this is before anyone had any idea, this Press Taylor situation is going to be a problem. He just got the job before he was ready, and they should have known this. The head coach, particularly, who protected the guy, we know about the quarterback's relationship with Press Taylor. Unfortunately, was too close. But and also the front office should have known that the guy wasn't ready.
Right.
This is a bad mess. So we don't want to. This is not going to be the Carson Wentz. We'll probably do a Wentz show in the spring.
It was more just about the patient mindset. I mean, listen. We detailed Doug Pederson's issues.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he did fire a coach, 1 year removed from 3 straight trips to the playoffs. And as you've talked about before, and you can expand on it, I mean, it seemed pretty dicey for Doug after year 1. I mean, I've heard some things, and you've reported some things. Yeah.
Okay. Let's get started here. This is going to be fun. This is not going to take very long.
You sound like a doctor ready to perform a surgery.
It's going to be fun because we've touched on some of this in passing over the years, but unless you've been with us from the beginning, you probably don't remember it. And I never really went into any detail because I was asked not to. But I'm going to now that the Athletic talked about it. And I hinted at this the last show. So it was January of 2017. I called my friend Tim McManus. I've talked to Tim about this just to let him know I was going to talk about it because we were working, I was at ESPN at the time. And I called Tim. I said, Tim, you're not going to believe this. And I can't believe this is true. But Doug Pederson might be in trouble. And he's like me. Our hair was on fire. Like, this can't be true. But I had so many people calling me. And then coaches from other teams saying, hey, do you know Jim Schwartz if he becomes the head coach? Can you put in the good word for me? I said, I don't know Jim Schwartz. I said, this can't be true. But why are all these people outside the Eagles building finding out about this? So Schwartz had this meeting in the first week of January. I'm going to say I got a call. It might have been Wednesday of that week. The season ended Sunday, right?
Right. So this is right after the 2016 season.
Yeah, exactly.
After Doug goes, 7-9?
7-9, right.
With a rookie quarterback.
Right. And now they thought internally that the team should have done better than 7-9. Now we can argue whether it's 7-9 or 9-7, whatever. The thing that alarmed them was that Bengals game where they got smoked in Cincinnati.
Yeah. Right.
And I know they were disappointed with that, but I didn't think anything. Okay, so here comes the Robert Saleh stuff in a minute here. Remember, I was at ESPN then, so I'm working on every coaching change. I wasn't thinking Eagles at all. Eagles, what? They just hired this Pederson guy. Okay, it wasn't a great year. They're losing record, but as you said, rookie quarterback, team's in transition. So I get these calls. I get two people calling me. I'm like, hey, Doug might be in trouble. I'm like, this can't be true. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Jeffrey Lurie would never do that. He'll give a guy a chance. He's very patient, as you said. But I'm hearing from too many people. I'm like, I got to check on this. I can't just ignore it. And I'm going crazy trying to. The story I'm chasing that week is the Robert Saleh hire for the Niners as D coordinator, because he's a guy that nobody knows about. And there were rumors that they were going to have a co-defensive coordinator. He was going to be one, like the Dolphins are doing. They're having two co-offensive coordinators, which is absurd. I'm like, I thought it was a fascinating story. So I wound up reporting it for ESPN that they're going to hire him that week. And Tim and I are working on this Pederson stuff. And I'm like, this can't be true.
Right.
And, I found out later that it wasn't, that they weren't really going to fire Pederson, but Jim Schwartz had this meeting with Jeffrey Lurie, the owner. And typically when an owner meets with a coordinator, it might be offense or defensive after the season. If he does it all, it's no more than 45 minutes to an hour.
Right.
I was told it was anywhere from 3 to 5 hours. I've had differing.
That's a long meeting.
I know it's at least 3 hours.
Wow.
Now, I think the Athletic said it was 3 hours, but I don't know if they had the same timeline that I had. But the crazy thing is, these coaches kept calling me all week. Do you know if it's true? I want to get in there. I'm like, I don't know. Then I'd find out like Thursday or Friday it wasn't happening. They were not firing Pederson. So let me fast forward this.
Do you think that they didn't because they realized how awful of a look that would be, or
yes,
that they just wanted?
It's my opinion. Yes. Here's what I think. So Reed gets fired after 2012.
Right.
Kelly gets fired, but before the end of 15. So are you telling me you're really going to fire Pederson after 16?
Right. You're going to be on your what? That would be your
third and 5 years.
Fourth coach then, once you hired a new one in 1, 2, 3, 5 years. I mean, that's a bad look.
Plays to your point. Yeah.
It's a bad process, to be honest with you.
Right. So I don't think it would ever been serious, whatever they talked about, but no one could tell me, no one's ever told me why that meeting Schwartz had with Jeffrey Lurie was so long. I have no idea. I still to this day don't understand it, but Tim and I were talking, and then here's the other story. Now, this one I've told, but I've only given tidbits. I didn't want to go too deep into it. In fact, no one knows this, but I'm going to go a little deeper.
Okay.
So I told the story a couple of years ago about how Greg Lewis was fired, right?
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is, so there were rumors that Greg Lewis might be fired, okay? Just along the time when Schwartz met with Jeffrey Lurie. It was that week after the season. So I checked into it. I was told he's not getting fired, that Pederson told his staff Greg Lewis is staying.
Okay.
The next week he was fired. Fast forward to 2019. What happened? Doug Pederson tells the media Carson Walsh might grow back. And the next day they were fired.
Right.
So this, again, goes to the miscommunication between the front office, ownership, and the head coach.
I mean, the fact that it would happen again it speaks poorly from many levels. It speaks poorly for the owner. It speaks poorly for the head coach and GM to not have collaborated before that season-ending press conference to be on the same page and say, well, what are we going to say? We're going to be asked about our coaching. Every last press conference when the season is over, every single one, somebody from the media, it's been me at times, asks, are you bringing back Coach A, unless you win the Super Bowl, and even sometimes then. But you're usually asked about, are all your coordinators? It's a protocol question you're supposed to ask because you don't want to miss out on any potential changes, right? Because you don't get to speak to the head coach and the GM for quite a while after that. So you want to make sure you get all your P's and Q's and your I's dotted and your T's crossed.
So how does Pederson not know, okay, when he hired his staff, I say hired in quotes, he didn't hire most of his coaches. He hired a couple of them. The rest were recommendations. He had to say yes.
Right.
But Schwartz was not his idea. Somebody else's.
Right.
We could go through the staff if maybe someday we'll do a Doug Pederson show. Most of the coaches he didn't know. I mean, they kept 6 or 7 of them.
Right.
Anyway, from the previous staff, from Kelly's staff, which is interesting nevertheless, because you would think like they would want those guys, but Stoutland, a bunch of them were actually pretty good coaches. So I give the owner and the GM credit for not firing these guys, because I thought for sure the animosity was so bad with Kelly they'd fire everybody. I seriously, I was
almost. I mean, they kind of almost did, but yeah, not everybody.
No, but they kept Stout, they kept Deuce, who they knew obviously, Press Taylor, Pagnetti's, and this, that, and the other. But anyway, so then I fast forward, maybe this part that we just talked about. So I'm at the owners' meetings in March of 2017. And I turned to Tim McManus. I said, there's something going on with Pederson, because he has his I don't know if you were there at the breakfast.
What year was that again?
It was 2017, March of 2017. No. Okay. So I said, something's going on. I've never heard him talk like this. He was actually coming with an attitude. Like someone got in his ear and said, you gotta be tougher on with the media. I never heard him talk this way.
Right.
So I asked one of the PR guys, I said, hey, did you talk to him? And they said, no, absolutely not. No, this is Doug now, whatever.
Sure.
Well, guess what? You just started to see his attitude with the media change. And I said to Tim McManus, somebody got in his ear. But what I do know is, talking to multiple friends of Pederson's in coaching and around the Eagles, he definitely felt like either his job was on the line, or he sensed there was something that maybe they didn't believe in him. This is what kind of the Athletic talked about. But my intel is similar, but a little bit different in terms of the people. But he must have sensed something, because as I would listen to his press conferences, he had a little bit of an attitude sometimes. Even the guys he dealt with forever, with this media. Right. Obviously, we know him with Jeff McLean was interesting.
Right.
It was Chip Kelly, but nevertheless, you sense it a little different. And then before we get out, 2 things I want to talk about. The Super Bowl year, right? 2 things. So, Tim McManus again. It was the Mike Missinelli roundtable. It was me, Tim McManus, and Gary Cobb. So Mike Missinelli asked me, he goes, hey, so
that's a meeting of the minds, by the way.
I'm sorry?
That's a real meeting of the minds.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Mike's great at it. He's great at
I know, it's great.
He has great stuff at the he's really good with these roundtables. So he goes, okay, Doug Pederson, year 1. What do you think for year 2? I said, if they don't improve, he won't be back in year 3. And Mike's like, what? So I'm just telling you, he won't be back. Now, I was basing it on what happened at the Schwartz thing. It's just the weirdness of after. I still don't quite understand what happened in January of 17. But what I said to Mike is, I said, I'm just telling you, he better improve, or he's not going to be back. I do believe, by the way, now, of course, they won the Super Bowl. I mean, moot point, but you couldn't make it up. So
how many people do you think would have been all right with Jeffrey Lurie firing Doug Pederson after 2016? Remember what it was like after 2016?
What was it like? I don't even remember.
It wasn't good for Doug. I mean, a lot of people actually wanted him fired. And I remember, listen, I was working at the Fanatic. I remember people calling up and saying, you might as well recognize a mistake when you made it now. Because a lot of people who would defend it would say, look, you can't give a guy just 1 year. And by the way, 7-9 is not the worst record for a guy who has a rookie quarterback whose outside wide receivers are Dorial Green Beckham and Nelson Aguilar before Nelson started to snap out of
meltdown. Yeah.
And with all that said, they still do you remember where they ranked in time of possession that year?
Oh, were they number 1?
Number 1 in time. They controlled the ball better than any team in the NFL with that set of wide receivers.
How's that even possible?
It was basically throwing to Zach Ertz and Jordan Matthews every single play.
And was it Ryan Matthews on that team?
Right, yeah, but I think he was hurt a lot.
He got hurt. Okay.
Yeah, they were riding Wendell Smallwood that year. Okay. I want to say somebody else whose name is escaping me right now. But yeah, Ryan Matthews was on the team. I mean, Doug didn't do a terrible job. It's just that he was a terrible face of the organization. He was, oh, gee, golly. And
Sure.
I'm going to love on, who's the wide receiver that they had to cut after he already said he was going to love on him from Oregon? Huff.
Oh, Josh Huff?
Yeah, Josh Huff.
Oh, my gosh.
Remember
Josh
he
Huff.
was, I guess, pulled over or arrested. He had a gun on him.
Oh, yeah, man. You make a great point. Think about it. With all the nonsense, Dorial Green Beckham was an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm at the Titans training camp the day of the trade. What are the chances I'd be there that day?
Right.
And I'm talking to them, and I'm like, man, why would you trade for Dennis Kelly? He's like, dude, you haven't been here. This is the only day you're here. He's running third team. In fact, we'd have him fourth team if we had a fourth team for receivers. He can't play.
If we had a fourth team.
I just never forget. I'm like, you don't know anything. What are you talking about?
But
he's
I mean,
talented.
Think about it. Doug didn't do a terrible job. He
didn't.
Came off
Right
as
fair.
goofy and unfit for the job. But I think that I think, remember, they started the year off 3-0. He almost became a victim of being what he should have been.
I don't remember any of it. I cover 32 teams. So it's hard for me to remember everything Eagles-wise, but the Cleveland game I remember because Jimmy Haslam, this is unbelievable. I come out of the press box and I see him either punch his hand or punch the wall, going to the elevator. They lost. It was the first game, but of course,
it was more like we passed on Carson Wentz.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And I remember thinking, and Wentz was really good that game. And he had that steamer throw over to over the middle to was it Jordan Matthews?
Yeah. By the way, he threw a touchdown. His first drive ended with a touchdown from him to Jordan Matthews.
Okay.
So on his first professional drive, he put 7 on the board.
And Joe Banner and I argued. We were at ESPN then. I'm like, that was absolutely the right throw. And he goes, no, you can't make it. That was wrong. And I remember he and I arguing over that was the wrong play or not. But
the right play if he completes the pass.
Of course, right? Of course. But the other thing I was going to talk about, and with all this stuff. It's kind of, and we talked about Paris Campbell was going to be the pick with Arcega-Whiteside.
Yes.
Here's the other thing that people don't know. The Eagles and Jets were working on a trade, and
in the second round.
Yes, the Jets were going to take Mecole Hardman was the guy.
Okay.
Who went a pick ahead of the Eagles. I believe the Eagles and Jets were going to make that trade. But the Chiefs took him ahead of the Eagles.
Did the Chiefs trade up for that pick?
I don't remember, but that was the other part of the thing that maybe they definitely were going to trade out of the pick if they would be able to do it with the Jets, but they didn't. And the Whiteside pick is, as we said then, we'll say it again. It was an analytics pick, and the owner, it's a pick the owner liked because it met his criteria for analytics. But as Joe Banner told us, that's not what Joe brought in.
Right.
That's not what he believed.
Correct.
Right.
That was the 2019 draft.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So they were trying to trade up with the Jets.
No. The Jets were trying to trade up with the Eagles to get Mecole Hardman.
Oh, okay. Yes. But once the Chiefs picked Hardman, then it was off the table.
Correct. 100%. Yep.
Now, do you know who the Jets? Oh, well, the Jets wanted Hardman. Okay, so that's
yes.
And the Eagles would have traded down. You think?
Yes, they would have made a trade with the Jets. I don't have it in front of me what the pick numbers were, but I just know that the Chiefs took Hardman one pick ahead of the Eagles, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think either one or two. Yeah, it was very close. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that was that. So. Yep.
56 was Hardman, and then 57th was
okay. There you go. Right. So that's what people don't know. But I figured.
And by the way, 59th was Campbell.
Okay.
Paris Campbell.
But again, it was supposed to be Campbell and I know he's been hurt, but you can't predict that. That has nothing to do with the fact that they didn't go by their board there.
Right.
You've seen other people report it. We all know the people who had the intel knew there was supposed to be Paris Campbell. For the life of me, I have no idea what had. It's another one that you were talking. You had a really good note on our last show where you talked about how got some guys in the front office. It took them a couple weeks to just get over the fact of the Hurts pick, and they weren't expecting it. And some other, the Arcega-Whiteside pick probably would go with that because, again, it was people thought guys in the draft room then thought that it should have been Paris Campbell. So to this day, I don't know what happened. I don't know.
Yeah.
The owner influence it?
I know you said the owner didn't make the pick. And
no.
Because the owner doesn't make, quote unquote, the pick. But I mean,
Right.
I was told, and I've said this, that he had a very strong influence on that pick from an analytics standpoint. So maybe he didn't sit there and write it on the card, but that's the guy who signs everybody's paycheck. So if his,
you got to stand up to him.
What he wants, then
you can't. No, see, I hear you.
No. I'm not. Trust me. If I'm the GM,
the general manager's got to stand up to him and say, "Listen,
I agree with you."
Roseman's got to say, "Listen, I get it. You're giving me control. Let me do this."
Yeah.
I get it. I'm not in that room. I understand. But if you're going by your board, you take the players on your board and you live with it.
Yeah. Well,
you can't predict that Paris Campbell would suffer 2 significant injuries in 2 years and not play. That doesn't have anything to do with it.
Has nothing to do with it at all. Right. Correct. Now, I wonder if Howie needs his Rudy moment. You've seen the movie Rudy, right?
Yes.
When they all when
I think I met him too, by the way.
When the coach says Rudy or Sean Austin, which one?
No, whatever the guy's real name. No, not Sean Astin. No,
okay.
The Rudy guy.
Okay.
At some card show or something years ago, but anyway.
Oh, interesting. Maybe Howie just needs to walk into Jeffrey's, just like the players did when Rudy wasn't going to dress up. And, here's my credential or whatever. I'm done. If you don't let me make the picks the way we want to make the picks, I'm done. Or is it that money?
You know what? Honestly, something like that. It's absurd. There should be no. I've used this example before. I know we got to get out here in a second, but I mean, talking to the Browns at the time when they drafted Johnny Manziel, I could tell you Jimmy Haslam 1,000% influenced that pick. He didn't tell him to make the pick,
right?
But if they didn't pick him, they felt like they might get fired.
Hey, conversely, isn't the story that Jerry Jones would have picked him if Stephen Jones hadn't, talked him off the ledge? And
might have been. He really wanted for marketing and all that.
Right.
I mean, here's the problem with it. You said this the last show. It's such a great point. It's so true in every building. These guys work in these players 9 to 11 months a year. Are you going to tell me an owner who didn't play, he didn't coach, and didn't scout is going to know as much as these guys? Are you serious? It's disgraceful. I mean,
can't defend
Jeffrey's got to be better than that.
I can't defend it. One thing I can say as we wrap up our discussion,
as much as I like the guy, it infuriates me.
Right. From the last 2 podcasts is that I don't think you and I have been hysterical about it. I think we've pointed out what we think are real flaws and offered what our intel would tell us what other teams might do differently. But I know sometimes we get some kind of sardonic responses. Well, if this process was so bad, why have they been, mostly winning? And look, I mean, you can have some discord up top and still win some games. I would just think as a fan, you would want the right process to win as many games as possible. Maybe you're not 4-11-1 this past year and you don't lose your starting quarterback and he actually plays like a real franchise quarterback if certain things up top were more settled. So, I mean, you and I, we've never said that the franchise is going down the tubes, that they're never going to win again. But I do think these reveal cracks in the foundation. And if you see one thing about the Eagles is they tend to be very up, then very down. They're very up, then very down. And when you've got the highest of the highs, 3 straight trips to the playoffs in the Super Bowl, but they've also had 2 4-win seasons now in the last, 8 years? So 9 years? That's not good either.
No, I'm convinced if I mentioned this last year, I'm going to mention this again, and hopefully I won't have to mention it after this draft. When you don't subvert the draft process, you're going to do well. When outside forces or people who really who are not qualified to give certain input, not all input, but certain input, and you feel pressure to do what this person does, i.e. Jeffrey Lurie,
right? Or
he likes a certain player, it doesn't matter what he thinks. I get he could hire and fire anybody once he owns the business. But you hire football people to do a job. Okay, if you want to make decisions, don't have any scouts.
Right, exactly. Just make the decision. Yeah,
I love football, and tape. Jimmy Haslam. I crushed him. Any chance I had, I crushed him because for over the years since he got that job, since he bought the team, I crushed the owner, Rainey Lerner in Cleveland. I've done a lot of reporting on the Browns over the years because he was clueless. Hire the right people and get the F out of the way. I mean, it ain't hard.
Love it. Love it. All right. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. Big thanks to our producer, Hunter Brody. You can catch his work on YouTube. It's called Sports Talk with Broads. That's his channel and his new Twitter account @BroadsMedia, where he's showcasing all of his new work. So make sure you check him out. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds.